Your organization probably doesn't want to improve things. Last week, I had a fascinating conversation with a reader around frustration and unhappiness at work. Much of it was totally obvious to both of us, but it occurred to me that this probably isn't to everyone, which is why almost all of my colleagues in a very cushy, non-stressful jobs nonetheless need therapy. I have a completely orthogonal thought why this happens, but we'll let them cook, okay? Let's let bro cook. Let's let Tim cook. Can we let Tim cook? If it isn't obvious to everyone, it's worth writing about. I think it would have been after a line like this. I think it should have ended with, and if this isn't obvious, you are probably in therapy. Now, I believe that this stems from a failure to recognize the gap, frequently vast, between what is being said by a person and what is being felt, and how this discrepancy applies to the organization too. It was sparked by reference to a concept called home tatame divide. The hone tatame divide. Hone tatame divide. I don't know what that means, which are Japanese concepts related to the true feelings of an individual and the front they present in public. I don't actually know anything about Japanese context beyond this one Wikipedia article. That is so good. So this has been dropped entirely so that it seemed... Hold on, let me do this again. So this has been dropped entirely so that I seemed worldly and to give us vocabulary less onerous than what you really think and what you are forced to say. Okay, tatame. I have never met a single manager at any large company that has not said they want to be data-driven. I have also never seen a single one of them take any steps that could actually move them in this direction. My boss does this all the time. We're very data-driven. Nonetheless, the average annual salary for a Power BI developer, what is since it's capital P, capital BI, what is this? Developer places them in the 90th percentile of my country's annual income. For those of you unfamiliar with Power BI, you connect it to data sources and then it makes visualization for managers to gawk at. And it is so simple to use that it is not inconceivable to me that you could actually train a monkey to make a bar chart with the correct application of positive reinforcement in peanuts. Okay, there are a handful of people who do amazing things with Power BI, but the hard truth is that most people who work in it are really just dragging and dropping bar charts onto a page after connecting it to a spreadsheet, being paid absolutely exorbitantly, and then if they are smart, going home and despairing. This is because Power BI tracks usage metrics, and almost all dashboards are completely unused. Oh. I don't even know what this stuff is. My current organization has 8,000 staff members, and I used to glance over the usage metrics of the dashboards my old team produced. I believe 3 dashboards were used, out of somewhere around 50 to 100. Wow, that's a lot of non-usage. Of those, Power BI is the bottom, a power bottom which can switch to top. I read that out loud. I just read that out loud. Thanks, Ryan Winchester. For the you know what? You made me read that. I read your name out loud. So figure out that one. Twitch, YouTube video of those being visited. It usually turned out they were being visited by members of our team, checking to see if the data had refreshed for the day. I'd estimate the cost of maintaining our team was approximately $1 million with an extra comma at the end for an organization that supposedly can't afford to waste money. Why? Management had no choice but to say they want to be data-driven. It's not like they can just come out and say that it's all fucked. So they say the only thing is that is available. We are going through a digital transformation. And that is why all these efforts don't generate any revenue and drive staff to misery. Oh, no. And it will be better once this current initiative successfully completes, even though we have never demonstrated the ability to successfully complete a similar initiative at any point in the past. Ooh. 2, hone. I'm feeling a little hone, if you know. These 2 pressures that drive the garbled stream of corporate of nonsense at organizations. Okay, I think I read that wrong, but we're going to keep on going. Sounds familiar. Let's see. Sturgeon's Law. The first one is very simple, and I sometimes lose sight of it while I am deep in the theory minds of incentives and other smarter takes. 90% of everything is crud, and that explains almost everything. Most managers have never had an independent thought on how to manage people effectively, hence the agile parroting. Most programmers don't know what an abstraction is, etc., etc. These are overwhelming factors, even though it is not it isn't a satisfying answer, but it has done more for my own peace of mind than anything that follows. I don't know how I feel about this. When I read these kind of things, I don't like the take. And this is a very common take that is just this look that everybody else is stupid and I have just reached some plane of enlightenment. Now, he may not be realizing he's saying this, but that's how I read this. Is that I have realized the problems, but 9 out of 10 people are too stupid to realize what I realize. Maybe I have too much faith, but I just don't believe in that. I don't like that. I've never liked that style of thinking. I never think it's good. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's something that you want to do, right? I think most people, if anything, have just never had the chance to do something more than they are just told, right? And so they act that way, right? It's a form of more learned helplessness than anything else. It's just I just do what they tell me to do. That's what I do, right? They don't have any control anyways. I don't like the look down on other people. I don't know. I used to be pretty good on the fencing circuit, as in Olympic fencing, with the swords. Oh, wow. Olympic fencer. It never occurred to me, even for a goddamn second, that we could win competitions without having good, smart people that understand the sport and trained hard. If we lose because Derek didn't turn up for practice for 6 months, I might be pissed off and upset, but I am not spiritually confused about why my efforts aren't rewarding me. Okay? I actually really like this analogy. I have no idea what possesses us to turn up at work and think we can accomplish anything with fucking Derek over there calling the shots while slamming their empty head onto a keyboard as rapidly as Jira will allow him to create cards we won't finish. But for some reason, it's a thing that happens. So, somewhat fair. Let's kill Derek. Let's just murder Derek. I'm not sure if I feel good about that, but okay. Derek will repeat whatever brain-dead thing is in vogue, but they are very stupid and will repeat literally anything that sounds popular, plus will never question that they have never heard an unambiguous success over their entire career. This means they will inevitably become promoted over time, because unlike the rest of us who have put in effort and pay what a friend of mine terms soul cost to act like a sycophant, they believe it sincerely. Again, I just don't really like this take. Again, I feel like it's pretty smug, I feel like, if anything, you could literally invert this argument onto the writer of said thing. You just look at everyone as brain dead, smashing their head against a keyboard and creating Jira tickets. They're just that person that thinks everybody is too stupid to understand, and they just create, and that all we do is create Jira tickets. They're the person that, right? You could literally invert this. You could invert this argument. I mean, I like what he's trying to say, right? I do like this idea, but I'm failing to see it through so much just belief that everybody's just a turd. Here's the pressure if you're in the 10% of people that aren't crud at their jobs. You're surrounded by people that are crud. Don't get me wrong. I am that terrible person at many things. There are fencing teams where I'd be absolutely dead weight. My piano playing leaves much to be desired. Last week, I managed to stub the little toe on both feet on the same day on 2 separate occasions, and I have on at least one occasion absentmindedly dropped a teaspoon into the trash instead of the tea bag. These are just totally normal human problems, right? However, I don't do, again, I also hate this statement. Anyways, sorry, I am actually having a really hard time with this article. I really dislike just full degradation of people. Anyways, however, I don't do any of that professionally. In professional settings, approximately all of my time goes into solving problems introduced by people that are just indescribably bad. I personally find that it only takes one bad person. I don't believe in this 90% rule, right? I think that this is what happens. I'm going to give you a different take on this, okay? I'm going to give you a much different take. You have one person who does believe what they're doing is the right way to do things, and I do not think that they're wrong. They think they have the best way to do something. Again, the continuous drive towards DX, this continuous drive towards what feels best for developers, this continuous drive for this made-up idea that somehow if you just do things right, it will be best. If you do it my way, my DX is better than your DX, right? And they get into this position where they actually are able to argue about something because they invented something that that really works. Say Falcor at Netflix, okay? This is a great example. And so now you have somebody that's in charge of these developer tools, these developer experiences, right? And they've made something that was semi-successful. So we're like, okay, this guy knows what they're talking about. Let's do this. And so what ends up happening? You have one person who spends all their time thinking about a problem. They know all the vernacular. They know all the pitfalls. They know all the common complaints. So you, the layman in this case, come up and go, hey, I really don't like this. Maybe you don't have the ability to express why you don't like it. You just simply are more ignorant to all the vernacular and words and everything. They start dropping terms like idempotent on you, which sounds very confusing. Or they drop the term idempotent because they're from Canada and you don't understand what that word even means. And all of a sudden, you feel completely insuperior arguing against this person because it's their job to learn, argue, and understand every minutia. It's your job to build something with it. And when you're building something with it, something feels off. You find that you're constantly fighting against it. It just feels really difficult, but you don't know how to express it. You just simply know something is wrong. So what ends up happening? You go, you argue, you fail. This person's smart. To me, what ends up happening is that it's not that there's somehow this thing that they're describing in which there's 90% of people that are shit. No, there's 90% of people who are woefully unprepared to argue against one person's bad ideas. And maybe they're not even that bad. Maybe they're just not great. Maybe there are better solutions. Does that make sense? I think that really makes a lot of sense. I'm not, you think I'm overthinking this vent/rant? No, of course not. Of course, this is called being critical at thinking. You should argue both sides of this. Is 90% of people literally stupid, or is it actually just one person really good at arguing? You should make these critical thoughts in your head. You should try to read things critically, okay? You should try to come to the point of like arguing with yourself. This is why we read. This is why we try to become smarter, is that you try to come to the closer version and the better version of reality. I just think most people don't have the ability to describe the problem they're facing because they don't think about it all day. They don't have the time luxury to think about it. Now, we've had two people at Netflix that rose up and made some ideas that we've been trying to undo for a long time. I may have helped with some of them. Maybe I've introduced a bad idea. Maybe I actually made Falcor. Who knows? But I'm just saying that, you know, these things do happen. You know, no one ever talks about my image. No one ever talks about my ensuring product quality with image automatic alerting in production for all the different languages and all the different box art, okay? Why does nobody ever comes to me and say, hey, congratulations on creating an entire system that allows all of production to run, that runs on every single system? Not a single thank you from that one. I get put on a requirement to make autoplay and test it, and you all watch it longer, and then I get blamed for autoplay, okay? You make one amazing feature, you did something, congratulations. You make a test where everybody else chooses autoplay, you're the autoplay guy. Gosh, what is this? You steal one heart, you're not a thief. I work on a platform that cost my organization an eye-watering sum of money to produce over the span of 2 years, and the engineers responsible for it elected to use spreadsheets to control the infrastructure. I mean, that's your fault. So we now have a spreadsheet with 400 separate worksheets that powers but one part of this whole shambling mess. Can you imagine the kind of havoc such people could wreak upon infrastructure and code if left unchecked? Is there any chance a team with people like that is going to produce good results? So again, there's a lot of missing context here. When we first started, was this like a guerrilla operation? Did you just want something to get off the ground? You already had a little quick spreadsheet. We could make a couple quick changes, just do something really quickly here, and then it evolves into that. You know how you make something and then it accidentally becomes productized? It's maybe not the plan. I doubt that someone's like, hey, we got to quickly make 400 separate worksheets for every last thing because that's what we're going to do, right? It more starts like, hey, we just want 3 things in a spreadsheet. We did that for originals at Netflix. We had like 3 things that we read off a spreadsheet and reported it in production, right? Just because that was just easier to get started instead of setting up an entire vertical data storage, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, hey, let's just prove this actually is real. And it took us like 2 years to get off. Okay, it took us literally 2 years to get off. But we still did it at one point. It's me. I'm Derek. Yeah. Is there any chance a team with people like that is going to produce good results? Obviously not. I actually don't even know. Do teams at large, let's see, do most teams at large organization have at least one person like that? Sweet, merciful Christ, in both of my first, second, and perhaps even third hand experience, whatever that means, it's possible that half of the teams consist entirely of that person. Oh, I really don't like this guy's take. I really think he should maybe permanently condescend down, you know? Anyways, let's see. Can my manager keep their job if they honestly say there is no chance this team will ever hit its objectives? Fuck no. If they did that, they'd be gone. So that system is constantly selecting for people that are either too dumb to realize it's hopeless or too perversely incentivized to be honest, or too deep into despair to admit themselves it is hopeless. I mean, I guess I've worked at places that we just don't do this. I don't know. Maybe I've gotten lucky. But I've pushed back on plenty of timelines without getting completely shit on. And not just at Netflix, at plenty of other places too. Ignoring the bliss. From the Tao of programming. A novice asked the master, in the East, there is a great tree structure that men call corporate headquarters. It is bloated, out of shape with vice presidents and accountants. It issues a multitude of memos, each saying go hence and go hither, and nobody knows what is meant. Every year, new names are put out onto the branches, but all to no avail. How can such an unnatural entity exist? The master replied, you perceive this immense structure and are disturbed that it has no rational purpose. Can you not take amusement from its endless gyrations? Do you not enjoy the untroubled ease of programming beneath its sheltering branches? Why are you bothered by its uselessness? We're going to do a little Chesterton's fence right after this. I quote the above because it is very funny, and because the only thing that has brought me clarity is the total ignoring anything management says unless I have a very good reasons to believe the person I am speaking to has intelligence, integrity, and has come to terms with the fact that the large organizations are inherently dysfunctional, which happens rarely. You know what I'd love to see this person do? I'd love to see whoever this is start your own company. Show us that it's true. Show us that the endless intelligence that is being, pontificated here can somehow create their own structure that doesn't have this. Prove it to me. Create a 10,000 person organization that doesn't have this. I have a friend that was denied a raise after working at a company diligently for 5 years. There was no budget, he was told. He was upset and ended up spending a year traveling the world on a sabbatical. I would be pissed too. I don't think I believe in a life of responsibility and maturation, so I probably wouldn't have traveled the world for a year. Instead, I would have continued to provide for my family and find a new job or something different, but I understand the sentiment of becoming super upset. Oh, while he was away, a new position to open up in the same department for the same job title, and it was a permanent role, theoretically exactly the same job he was doing in an identical team with the same managers. They gave me that job. All the money he asked for, plus another hefty sum on top of it. Management saying there's no budget means nothing. Yeah, you're working for deceptive people at that point. You got to get out. I'm also surprised you would take the job fully. Does he know that? It is purely a thing they are forced to say. And if the person saying it was not practically insightful, they even believe it. They're even believing it. The only thing an organization can do means any. Let's see, hold on. The only thing an organization can do that means anything is actually solving your problem. And any words to the effect of, well, we'll address your concerns soon, or we'll just need to do some planning around this, etc., should be just ignored wholesale. These days, I ignore everything they've said about salary. I just state the number and I don't budge, and they usually just give me what I want despite saying it was impossible. I ignore everything they say around work culture and the teams they want to build. I don't factor it into my decisions around whether it's a team I'd like to join because I know it isn't trustworthy. And frankly, sometimes I just ignore them because fuck them, why not? There is a good piece of advice here, which is you have more power in negotiating than you realize. Okay? Like, you do have more power in negotiating than you realize. And people often don't take that advantage. I think it's a little bit harder once you're at a job versus before you join a job. When you're at a job, it is much harder to negotiate your position. But once you're at a job, you kind of get to, if you negotiate your position in, there's a certain tenor that you get to kind of maintain. It's a little bit easier. Similarly, I let them talk as much as they want about work culture or whatever. These are endless gyrations of the great tree structure rustling in the wind. Actually remove the staff that no one works to work with or who terrorizes their subordinates, and I'll know you are serious about performance. Reward people for staying, and I'll know you're serious about valuing people. Anything short of that is less than worthless, because you've wasted valuable time I could have been listening to music. It's much more peaceful to solve a few problems, not waste a single iota of my energy on creating systemic change, unless we're going to try curing cancer. Then log off to touch grass. Realizing that no mere words can demonstrate an appetite for true change was necessary for me to make that change in my life. Hopefully, it does the same for someone else. I think there's a lot to this that's really good. And I do mean that. That I think being a stronger voice at your company, being someone who does fight for the good things, and being someone who stands a bit more firm in your positions, good things. Touching grass, good thing. Dude, I do it all the time. I literally do it all the time. Look, dude, touch grass. Dude. It's very good. But I think the thing is that if you really want to be successful, even if you never financially get successful, even if you never rise to a position of power successful, I think not looking at everyone as just incapable and stupid, I think can make the world of difference. If you look at every single person as an opportunity to help effectuate this change, and that just providing good reasoning will help get them excited for something, then yeah. Now, you're going to run into a few people who completely disagree with you. Why do they disagree with you? What do they know that you don't? Is a great question to ask yourself. It's really, really good to ask yourself that, because you could just have this small misunderstanding of something. And when you know that, it could change a lot of your perspective on that person. And you're like, oh, wait a second. Okay, I see why you're doing that now. And here, I actually have some things I need to correct. Let's fix this together. Two people, right? Two people are much stronger than one. What's the phrase? I forget what it's like. Something like two sticks together are hard to break. A 3-strand cord is impossible to break, or something. I forget what it goes. It's in Ecclesiastes. I know that. Just a thing to think about. So that's kind of how I think about it, is instead of looking at every person as some stupid crud, the biggest systemic changes that have ever happened are rarely top down. The biggest worldwide systemic changes often happen because people were convinced. And so you can do that as an engineer. You can make gigantic changes, right? That's why grassroots are so strong. Anyways, just thoughts. The name is the Primogen. Like and subscribe. Oh, I forgot to say that. Like and subscribe. Again.